While the war in Iran continues to dominate the news headlines, there are important updates breaking every single day in the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, the Department of Justice's handling of those files, and Donald Trump's connection to it all. And there's some breaking news today that's coming out that we need to spend some time talking through, because investigative reporter Julie K. Brown, who is the preeminent expert and has broken many stories on this case over the last 20 years, just came out with a new story today in the Miami Herald that talks about what the Federal Bureau of Prisons did in the immediate aftermath of Jeffrey Epstein's death back in August of 2019.
What does it feel like to see this gigantic onslaught of files after all this time?
Well, I wish I could say it was somewhat satisfying to finally see some truth in this, but the way that this is being handled right now by the administration is very chaotic and it's very messy, and it's very hard to figure out what's what when half a document is redacted, when the recipients and the person that sent the document is redacted. So I think in some ways this raises more questions and makes the public more distrustful because they weren't supposed to do this. It was supposed to be an act of transparency. And I don't see it as that, quite frankly.
Less than a week after Jeffrey Epstein was found dead inside his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan, something was afoot inside an office where the Federal Bureau of Prisons After Action Team had set up a probe into what had happened to their most high-profile inmate. The FBI was told that there were people shredding documents, bags of them. Now let's start with the obvious. It is not uncommon for an after-action team from the Bureau of Prisons to head into these situations, especially around someone as high-profile as Jeffrey Epstein. But the fact that they were taking as many documents as they were was alarming, not just to correctional officers at the facility, but inmates as well. One particular inmate raised the alarm with guards and was also personally asked multiple times to take giant bags of shredded documents out to the dumpster on both Thursday, August 15th and Friday, August 16th, 2019. They are shredding everything, the inmate told one of the guards, adding that he was asked to give the officials whom he did not recognize a hand with the shredding. "Make sure you get that box too," one of the men allegedly told him. The inmate wasn't the only one who found it out of the ordinary. A corrections officer at the detention facility called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center that same night, a Friday at 6:28 p.m., to report that he had never seen this amount of bags of shredded documents coming out to be put in the dumpster at the rear gate of Manhattan Correctional Center. In addition, a backgate corrections officer noted the volume of documents, indicating that he thought it was inappropriate for something that would be the subject of an investigation to be shredded and thrown out in such volume. After the FBI Threat Operations Center was contacted, they instructed the correctional officers to go search the dumpsters and see if they could pull anything out. Maybe the trash hadn't been picked up yet. But unfortunately, it had been taken out, and those documents appear to have disappeared into the void. The most important question to ask yourself after finding this out is why? Why would the Bureau of Prisons specifically go in, set up an office in there, set up an after-action team, and then get to work shredding everything Epstein related around one of the most high-profile inmates in the entire country less than a week after his death? And I think that is the one with the most obvious answer, because there are very wealthy and powerful people tied up in the Epstein files, including, at that moment in time, the sitting president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. You have to imagine that the order for this to happen did not just come from within the Federal Bureau of Prisons, but higher up than that. It makes you wonder who exactly gave the instruction to destroy any documents they could find related to Jeffrey Epstein.
The government can say all they want. There's no credible evidence, nothing to see here, nothing more to investigate. But this case from the beginning has been a thorn in the Justice Department's side because the public doesn't trust that they did what they were supposed to do, that the government, that the investigators were thorough.
Now, the second and most difficult question to answer would be what was in those documents that was of such critical interest, or rather, that needed to be destroyed as quickly as possible. Was it the rounds that the guards were making? Was it medical information pertaining to things that might have been going on with Epstein at the time? Was it information about his visitors? It's hard to say exactly what they were trying to get rid of there, but they were clearly successful, and we'll never know the answer to that question. And while this is certainly a consequential update from the weekend about the Epstein Files cover-up and everything that has happened since he died, there is additional information coming out of Congress with Representative Melanie Stansbury out of New Mexico detailing some information that she uncovered in a hearing yesterday.
A minor who was an adult by the time the FBI interviewed her alleges that Donald Trump attempted to rape her, as well as Jeffrey Epstein. But in the estate files that were transmitted to the committee months ago, there was also evidence of a lawsuit and a restraining order against Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. I asked today the attorney in this deposition if these were two different individuals, and he could not confirm. I believe these are two different allegations involving two different minors. If that is indeed the case, that means that there is not just one allegation of rape of a minor by President Donald Trump. It means there is two in the existing Epstein files, one at the Department of Justice and two inside of the estate files that were transmitted to the committee. And the continued unwillingness of the Department of Justice and the President to answer basic questions about this case are evidence of a continued cover-up. And there is nothing that the President has said or done or anything in these files that has exonerated him or shown that any law enforcement agent has exonerated him from culpability in either or both of those cases.
The stunning accusation that is put forth here is that there is a second victim, a minor, who was raped by Donald Trump that had a restraining order against him that was previously unknown to the public and may be different than the one that was publicly discussed a couple weeks ago when it was unearthed that a 13-year-old allegedly bit his penis when he forced her into oral sex.
Julie, I want to play you a clip of Congressman Ted Lieu, who comes from Southern California, speaking on February 3rd.
Why are Republicans so interested in Bill and Hillary Clinton? It's because they're trying to distract from the fact that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files thousands and thousands of times. In those files, there's highly disturbing allegations of Donald Trump raping children, of Donald Trump threatening to kill children. So I encourage your press to go look at these allegations.
Stansbury's statement here also uncovers a very important thing that not enough people are talking about, which is that Donald Trump himself and all of his MAGA sycophants continue to claim total exoneration, that the Epstein Files release has completely absolved him of any wrongdoing. But we also know that Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice are continuing to run a cover-up of the release of the full Epstein files. Their redactions have been a nightmare, and every new piece of information that comes out continues to reveal exactly what kind of creep the President of the United States is. Make no mistake, he is heavily implicated in the Epstein files. There is nothing in there that exonerates him, and the more we continue to find out, the more we understand just how deep this cover-up runs.